What is good, YouTube? I decided to make a 16-man bracket of the best finishers in the UFC. So I had a list of 16 fighters and I put them in a random order to find out who they're going to be fighting. Alright, so we're going to get straight into it. There's a lot of recently biased in like these type of videos too. But anyways, we got Drickus du Plessis versus Matt Brown in the first fight. Starting off in the first round, Drickus shot a couple of takedowns, wasn't really getting anything. He got an inside trip, but Matt Brown got right back up. And then he gets a big clinch knee that rocks Matt Brown. Drickus continued to shoot more takedowns and he ended up running into a big uppercut that rocks him. Matt Brown kept up with the pressure. He just kept on swinging, throwing combinations, and he drops Drickus in the first round. Drickus wasn't really having it on the feet, so he goes ahead, he tries to shoot again, runs into another uppercut that rocks him. It was getting close to the end of round 1. Drickus ends up shooting a takedown, and this time he accidentally gets it and he just rides out the round from there. And then starting off in round 2, Drickus goes ahead, he clinches Matt Brown and does a big hip toss that gets him to the ground. Drickus was controlling him a little bit, but after a little bit, Matt Brown gave up his back and he ended up getting into a rear naked choke, but he was able to escape. After Matt Brown reverses position, Drickus ends up pushing him right off of him to stand up. Drickus came back with a big jumping switch kick that rocks Matt Brown. Matt Brown goes for a high kick while he's gassed and he ends up whiffing that, and then Drickus goes ahead and gets another takedown. Drickus sets up a north-south choke, but it was just too late in the round for him to get it off. Then we got to round 3. Drickus ends up going for a spinning shit, but he wasn't able to get nothing. Matt Brown clinches up, gives him a couple elbows, and he rocks him. Drickus wasn't really having it on feet. After he got rocked, he ended up shooting a couple takedowns. Matt Brown ended up defending the first takedown, but Drickus wasn't going to stop from there as he goes in for a big single, and then he ends up slamming Matt Brown on the ground. Drickus was controlling for a while, but Matt Brown ended up taking his back, and then Drickus ended up getting out of that, but Matt Brown still ended up on top, and then went to a decision.
All 3 judges score this contest 29-28. Declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Matt the Immortal.
Matt Brown got his dub, but anyways, in the next fight, we got a big one. We got Tom Aspinall versus Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev ended up shooting a takedown and got him down right away, but Tom Aspinall got right back up just to get slammed. Tom Aspinall was having a lot of problems on the ground. He was getting beat up and just getting controlled for basically the rest of the round. Ended up giving his back. Khamzat ended up locking in a rear naked choke, but he was able to get out of it. After basically getting control for the rest of the round, Tom Aspinall ended up going for a Kimura, but it was just like 20 seconds left, so there was nothing to get out of it. Starting off round 2, Tom Aspinall whiffs a head kick, but Khamzat Chimaev ends up trying to take him down. Wasn't able to, but he just kept on shooting, but Tom Aspinall's takedown defense was on point this round. And that didn't stop Tom Aspinall from getting his own takedown, but he just let him right back up, and then Khamzat Chimaev makes him pay for it and slams him on the ground. Tom Aspinall ends up going for a Kimura. This time he has a lot more time on the clock, but still wasn't able to get it. After like a minute of control time, Khamzat ends up going for a north-south choke. He wasn't able to get it. Tom Aspinall reversed position and just controlled him for the rest of the round. Khamzat started out round 3 hot as Tom Aspinall shoots for a takedown, but he just runs into an uppercut and a straight right that sits him down. Khamzat took advantage of it. He jumps on top of him, but Tom Aspinall ended up going for a guillotine, and he did come pretty close, but Khamzat was able to counter it, but he didn't get anywhere with that. Chimaev for like the next 3 minutes ended up controlling Tom Aspinall until there was like 40 seconds left, and Tom Aspinall reversed position and ended up locking the arm triangle, but it was just too late.
Cards for decision. All 3 judges scored this contest 30-27. For the winner by unanimous decision, Khamzat Chimaev.
And after 2 decision wins, we got Derrick Lewis versus Vicente Luque, and this one's not going to a decision. Luque started out hot with a check hook and a spinning back fist right behind it. Then Luque goes for a fake spin straight into a takedown, but Derrick Lewis defends it, but he ends up eating a big head kick that drops him. Derrick Lewis for most of the round wasn't really able to find too much. He ended up going for some spinning stuff, wasn't really able to land anything. Luque ended up making him pay for it, so he ended up rocking him with a big hook. But Vicente wasn't going to stop there. He kept on the pressure and he ends up dropping Derrick Lewis with a big overhand. And then he throws a big wheel kick out of nowhere and he drops Derrick Lewis badly. He does a couple ground and pound shots, but somehow Derrick Lewis makes it out the first round. Starting off round 2, Derrick Lewis lands a body kick, but he ends up just eating 2 punches and a head kick. And right when he tries to come back, Luque drops him with a big 1-2 that sits him down. Vicente Luque gave him a couple ground and pound shots, but then he ended up going for submission, but Derrick Lewis was able to reverse it. And after Derrick Lewis reverses position, he gets to the side control, but he stands up and he starts laying down punches on Luque that actually rocks him a little bit, but Luque ends up standing right back up. Once this fight got to the feet, it wasn't looking too great for Derrick Lewis as he eats a big straight right that drops him. I was starting to confuse Derrick Lewis for the Korean Zombie for a second, because every time he got dropped down, he just kept getting backed up. He ended up getting countered again, but then soon, enough was enough. And that brings us to the next fight. We got Sugar Sean versus Paul Craig. Sean started off with a side kick to a spinning kick, puts Paul Craig back. Paul Craig was shooting takedowns, wasn't really getting anything. Paul Craig wasn't able to get the fight to the ground. Sean makes him pay for it with a big high kick and an overhand that sits him down. From there, it wasn't looking good. Paul Craig ends up shooting straight into a front kick, and I don't know how the hell he eats it, but he does stand right back up. The more this fight was on the feet, the worse it was looking for Paul Craig as he gets rocked by a big spinning side kick. Starting off round 2, Sugar Sean goes for a spinning bat fist and he rocks Paul Craig out some on the back foot. Then he throws a big high kick, he rocks Paul Craig, but Paul Craig is still somehow standing. Later in round, OMalley whiffs a spinning wheel kick. Paul Craig goes for a takedown, but he still wasn't able to get it. After that, Sean OMalley rocks him with a big spinning bat fist once again, but that was the rest of the round. Starting off round 3, Sean OMalley drops Paul Craig with a spinning switch kick that knocks him down. This time, Sugar Sean makes the mistake of falling Paul Craig to the ground, and this is right where he wants it as he reverses position and he ends up locking in a submission, but he wasn't able to get nowhere with it. Sean OMalley reverses position, but Paul Craig just kept going for submissions. He goes for a twister, got nothing out of it, but Sean OMalley ends up actually going for his own arm triangle, but he gets nothing out of that. OMalley was playing the game on the ground, but he was actually having success as he gets in top mount and he was laying down punches on Paul Craig. Paul Craig ended up giving up his back, but that didn't stop Sean OMalley from laying down more punches until his back got flat, and that was the end of the fight. In the next fight, we got Shavkat versus Justin Gaethje. And to start off this fight, Shavkat was shooting takedown after takedown after takedown, but he wasn't getting none of them. There wasn't really too much that happened. There wasn't any big strikes that happened in the first round, but Shavkat ran down his stamina a lot. And that was it for the first round. But starting off the second round, Shavkat ends up shooting a takedown and he actually gets it this time. But Justin Gaethje was able to get to a sprawl position and Shavkat ended up attempting an anaconda, but he wasn't able to get it. After Justin Gaethje reversed position, Shavkat took his back and that was the rest of the round. And then starting off the third round, Justin Gaethje goes for a high kick, but he ends up just getting clinched into a takedown. But Justin Gaethje was able to pop right back up right away, and then he ended up getting to a clinch position where he landed a couple big elbows. But right after they got out of the clinch, Shavkat shoots another takedown, and this time he was able to get it. But he's completely gassed out. But he ended up going for an arm triangle, got nothing out of that. He was able to control Justin Gaethje for a little bit, got a couple ground and pound shots, but Justin Gaethje was able to eventually get up. But Shavkat wasn't going to stop. Even though he was gassed, he was shooting takedowns and clinching up the entire time, landing a couple strikes, completely gassed out, but he ended up actually getting a takedown. It mixed in a couple ground and pound shots and just controlled him for the rest of the round for a decision.
Contest 30-27, 29-28, and 30-27. Declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Justin.
Now in this next fight, we got Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira taking on Sergey. Sergey ends up shooting a takedown right away, but he runs into an uppercut. I don't know why he was the first one to shoot. But Charles ends up shooting his own takedown and he actually gets him down, but Sergey ended up getting to a guillotine position. Even though he actually went pretty far in it, he didn't get nothing out of it. After that, there wasn't much happening. They stayed on the ground, reversing positions a couple times. Charles ended up taking his back, but Sergey reversed that just to go straight into a triangle, but he gets out of that. After he gets out of the triangle, he reverses position, and he ends up controlling Charles for the rest of the round. Alright, going to the second round, Charles Oliveira wasn't really doing much on the feet, but he ended up clinching him up and going for a guillotine, but Sergey got out of it. And again, not much happening on the feet. I think Charles was landing slightly more, but Sergey does have more power. Do Bronx shoots in for the double leg. He picks up Sergey and then he slams him right on his back. And then after that, he went for an omoplata, but it was too late in the round. And that brings us to round 3. Not much was happening in this fight, but Sergey ends up going for an overhand and eats a knee instead. When Sergey tries to let his hands go, he eats an uppercut and he gets sit down once again. Obviously, Charles was not afraid to go on the ground. He goes on the ground. He ends up trying to go for a reverse triangle, but Sergey just reverses position. Sergey got a little control time, but Charles Oliveira, he ended up standing right back up, and then he ended up shooting his own takedown, which he got Sergey back to the ground once again. And even though he was off his back, Sergey ended up actually going for an arm bar, but that was the rest of the round. He just got slammed on his head, and then that was the rest of the fight.
All three judges score this contest 30-27, declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Charles.
We got the best finishers in the UFC, but nobody's getting finishes. But anyways, now we got Dustin versus Yuri. He ends up shooting a takedown. And I don't know why every striker in this video is shooting takedowns, but they just is. But both fighters try to go for each other's bodies, but instead they ate uppercuts that rocked them. After Dustin rocked him, he was pressuring forward. He tried to work the body, but instead he eats an uppercut that drops him, and then Yuri keeps him there for the rest of the round. Almost. And then we got to round 2. They wasted no time. Dustin tries to go for a side kick, but instead he eats a right hand. Yuri just kept coming forward. He was letting combinations go. When Dustin tried to throw back, he just got rocked. But that wasn't going to stop Dustin Poirier from coming forward. He was letting combinations go. Yuri tried to go for a switch kick, but instead he ate an overhand. And even though he was in trouble, Dustin Poirier made a mistake for shooting on Yuri, and again he ate another uppercut that sent him down. Dustin came forward, but Yuri lands a big spinning elbow that sits him down. He gets him in a horrible position. He was letting ground and pound shots off, but Dustin Poirier was eventually somehow able to spin out of it. And this was a back and forth fight. Yuri tried to go for his own kick, but Dustin Poirier goes for a high kick that rocks him. Poirier tried to go for a Superman punch where he hit a straight right that sent him down, and once he stand up, he had another one that got him KO'd. Alright, now we got a total mismatch. We got 3.5-star Jim Miller taking on a 5-star Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev was shooting takedowns, but he actually wasn't able to get none, where Jim Miller was defending, and he ended up getting a takedown of his own. But being on the ground, that's where Islam wants it. He ended up taking Jim Miller's back, and he ended up getting a top mount where he landed a couple ground and pound shots. Islam tries to go for a submission, but Jim Miller gets straight out of it. And that brings us to the next round, where Jim Miller starts off with a combination, gets nothing out of it, but Islam clinches him up, and he does a hip toss to get him right on his back. Jim Miller was surviving, but after some control time, he ended up giving up his back, and Islam took advantage of that, where he locked in a rear naked choke. Jim Miller does get out of the submission and reverses the position, but right when he goes for ground and pound, Islam Makhachev pushes him right off. Makhachev wasn't looking to keep this fight on the feet. He ends up shooting a takedown, but Jim Miller was able to reverse it. I thought he was going for a guillotine, but he just reversed position. But once again, Makhachev, when he was on the ground, he was able to take his back, and he got top mount where he's laying down a couple of punches, but Jim Miller was somehow able to push him off. But right when they get on the feet, Jim Miller tries to land some combinations off, but instead he gets an uppercut while he's starting to overhand, and it was almost the end of the fight, but Islam just kept him there for the rest of the round. Starting off round 3, Miller goes for an overhand, but instead he eats an uppercut that rocks him. Miller knew he's in trouble, so he ended up shooting a takedown, and he actually somehow got it. And then he went to a crucifix position where he had Islam Makhachev in a lot of trouble with low stam. He goes for a straight arm lock, and that was the end of the fight with the biggest upset that I've seen. That was the rest of that round. Now we're in the quarterfinals, where we somehow got 3.5-star fighters Matt Brown and Jim Miller, who pulled off upsets. The first fight in the quarterfinals, we got Matt Brown taking on Khamzat Chimaev. He's looking for another upset, where he's starting off looking pretty good defending takedowns, but then he ended up pulling guillotine on Khamzat. This was not good news, as Hamza got out of it right away, and he ended up getting position on him, and he actually landed a couple ground and pound shots that rocked him. Matt Brown gave up his back. Khamzat took advantage of it. He goes for a rear naked choke, but he was able to escape it. Round 1 was getting close to the end, but Hamza goes for another takedown. He slams Matt Brown right on his back and controls him for the rest of the round. And starting off round 2, after a minute in, Hamza goes for a double leg, and he gets Matt Brown down with ease. And then he goes for an arm triangle, but again, Matt Brown was able to escape it. But it was not looking good for Matt Brown, as Hamza got into top mount and he was letting punches go, and he was rocking him. And although he was surviving, he did give up his back, and he was taking damage after damage for most of the round. But Matt Brown wasn't going to just go out like that. He ended up getting to half guard, where Hamza just kept looking for the finish. He goes for an arm triangle, got pretty decent on it, but he got nothing out of it. After having a whole bunch of trouble on the ground, Matt Brown does end up reversing position. With only 10 seconds left, he lets up Hamza. He goes for a clinch, but he ends up just getting rocked once again. It was not looking good. In round 3, Hamza, he ended up clinching up, shooting takedowns, but Matt Brown was not going to allow this fight to get to the ground again, but it didn't matter because he ended up getting dropped on the feet. Now that Hamza got him worried about the striking, he ends up shooting a single leg. He picks him up and slams him right on his back. And that was the rest of this fight, as Hamza was able to control him for the rest of the round.
3 judges score this contest 30-27, declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Hamza Chimaev.
Alright, now in this next fight, we got Vicente Luque taking on Sean O'Malley. Started off, not too much happened on the feet. Luque ended up shooting a takedown, but Sugar defended it perfectly. But it didn't matter, as Luque goes for a spinning wheel kick and he rocks Sean O'Malley. O'Malley tried to throw back, but instead he hits a big straight right and he gets rocked once again. O'Malley tries to come up with a duck and roundhouse, but instead he takes a big uppercut to the ass that sits him down. But Sugar did have a better round 2, as he catches Luque throwing a kick with his own kick that sits him down. But Luque throws his own 1-2 and he rocks Sean O'Malley and gets him on the back foot. Luque tries to mix it up, shooting a takedown, but he ends up just getting reversed, and Sean O'Malley rocks him with a lead spinning wheel kick. Alright, now going to round 3, Luque tries to start off with a front kick, but instead eats a couple body shots and an uppercut. O'Malley tried to work his legs, but instead he just got a check leg kick, and we know his legs ain't the greatest. But Sean O'Malley comes back with a jump and switch kick, and he rocks him and then sits him down with a straight left. And it's a pretty close fight, so Luque goes for a head kick. He rocks Sean O'Malley, but Sugar didn't want the fight to end like that. He ends up going for a left hook, uppercut, and a body shot, and then he ends up going for another left hook that sits him down that ends the fight.
All 3 judges score the contest 29-28, declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Alright, next fight we got the rematch of Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira. Bronx starts off shooting a takedown that Justin Gaethje defends perfectly, and then he ends up landing a big spinning back fist that rocks him. And he kept up the pressure, walking him down, sitting him down with a straight right. But right when he stood up, Justin Gaethje was swinging and he sent him down right again. But it wasn't looking great for Bronx. He just kept eating uppercuts and he got rocked once again, and that was the rest of the round. And as much as I like a Bronx comeback, it didn't look too good for him as he shot into an uppercut. Alright, now in the last fight of the quarterfinals, we got Yuri PROSK taking on Jim Miller. Halfway through round 1, Yuri goes for a combination. He gets his first rock and a knockdown. As it wasn't looking good on the feet, Jim shoots a takedown and he ended up getting Yuri on the ground for the rest of the round. Round 2, Jim Miller wasted no time shooting a couple takedowns, but Yuri was defending him. But once he tried to get his hands going, Yuri just rocked him with an overhand. But Jim did end up getting his own leg kick that rocked Yuri's leg, and he ended up shooting a takedown, but he just got reversed, and that was the rest of round 2. And now in round 3, once again, the height difference was not doing no good for Jim Miller as he getting pieced up on the feet, but he shot a takedown and got him down. And Yuri was able to stand right back up, but Jim Miller just hip tossed him and got him right back on the ground. But with 1 minute in the fight, Jim Miller gets Yuri PROSK in a horrible position, and he ends up going for an armbar with his legs, and he ended up submitting him with another upset win. Alright, bringing this to the final 4, we got Khamzat Chimaev taking on Sean O'Malley. Sugar started off the fight great as he rocked Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat was shooting takedowns, but Sean O'Malley was defending him. With 1 minute left in round 1, O'Malley goes for a spinning side kick. Didn't work out, so he went for it again. In the last 10 seconds, Khamzat tries to shoot a takedown, but he got nothing out of it, and that was the end of round 1. Alright, O'Malley starts off round 2 with a jump and switch kick, and he hits Khamzat Chimaev, but he was on phase. Chimaev starts shooting takedowns like a crackhead, so O'Malley made him pay for it with an uppercut that sits him down. Khamzat tries to clinch up, but O'Malley goes for a front kick that knocks him down, and then Khamzat was shooting takedowns, but once again, O'Malley's takedown defense was on point, and he ended up dropping Khamzat once again. Later in the fight, O'Malley lands a big overhand that sits down Khamzat, and he got some really low in head health, and he ends up getting some ground and pound shots. Chimaev was surviving, but O'Malley was landing punches, elbows, and he finished the fight. Alright, the next fight in the final 4, we got Jim Miller versus Justin Gaethje, and Jim Miller did not start off good as he put his head straight into a head kick. And he kept on taking damage in the first round. It wasn't looking too good. Everything he was throwing, Justin Gaethje was countering, and his chin was not looking too good. And Justin Gaethje sits him down with a straight right. Miller goes for a leg kick, but instead eats a double elbow that rocks him. Then they both go for Superman punches. Jim Miller actually lands it first, and he drops Justin Gaethje. But it still wasn't looking good as he got knocked down once again. And then with 10 seconds left, he got dropped another time, and that was the rest of the round. Alright, going into round 2, Jim Miller tries to push him back with a front kick, trying to keep his distance, but he goes right into an uppercut that sits him down. Then O'Malley goes for a Superman punch. He gets another knockdown, and he gets the top mount, and he lets off punches where he ends the fight. Alright, in the final matchup for the best finisher bracket, we got Sean O'Malley taking on Justin Gaethje in a 5-round championship fight to see who's the best finisher in the UFC. In round 1, they were both letting off some stuff, but it didn't seem like too much was happening. Nobody was landing nothing crazy. They were just landing a little bit, touching each other. But O'Malley did do a combination with a nice lean back and a spinning side kick, but Justin Gaethje just eats it. Then O'Malley goes for the body, but instead he gets a big uppercut that sits him down. And then Justin Gaethje goes for the Lee hook head kick combination that sits down Sean O'Malley. And then once his fight got to the ground, Justin Gaethje controlled him for the rest of the round. Starting off round 2, Sean O'Malley was looking to get his get back as he was throwing combinations, but Justin Gaethje caught him while doing it. Then Justin Gaethje go for a big overhand that rocks Sean O'Malley, gets him on the back foot, and sits him down with an uppercut. O'Malley fakes a low kick into a high kick, rocks Justin Gaethje, but Gaethje lands a clean counter for the KO win. And there you have it. For the winner for the best finisher tournament, we got Justin Gaethje, who knocked out Sean O'Malley for the championship win. And I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'm going to get some more tournaments soon, more showcases soon. But anyways, I'm out. Make sure to drop a like, sub, and stuff, you know.